Welcome to another episode of the Chicago Business Review. I am so excited for this week's episode. Guys, we have a special guest today. We have Matt Tack, who is a serial entrepreneur and currently the founder and executive principal for Nutritious, which is a consumer product goods company aimed at serving working athletes by providing them with on-the-go daily nutrition fuel for their active lives that is going to be convenient for you to take when you are out. Because I know a lot of you are go-getters and entrepreneurs and athletes, and you need something, and it's not always easy to prep food all the time. And Matt and his company are looking to try and help with that situation. So without further ado, please welcome Matt to the show. Matt, thanks so much for joining us this week.
Thanks, Young. I appreciate it, man. Looking forward to it.
Of course. So I know there's a lot of different things that we're going to try and delve into because you've been doing some amazing things in your entrepreneurial journey. But your newest venture, Nutritious, is something that I feel like a lot of people out there that I know always complain about, where food prep, meal prep for the week, it always takes a lot of time, or sometimes you can't prep it for the whole week. And you don't want to go out and just pick up food randomly. You want to know what's out there or what you're putting into your body. And you want it to be easier to consume and take with you. And it seems like you guys are kind of tackling that. And so can you share with the audience a little bit about the company, what you guys are trying to do? And and we'll go from there.
Well, I think you did a great job. I mean, that was pretty much it. We provide the working athlete optimized daily nutrition to fuel their active lifestyles. You know, one of the main things for me is I never really truly wanted to lose my athlete. You know, as a high school athlete, pretty good. Nothing great. I never filled my dad's shoes, but I was a pretty good athlete in high school. And it was one of those things where when I went to college, I was always balling. I was always doing something, right? And so then when it became the workforce, I still wanted to do like some intramural things, but I never really wanted to lose that edge. And so for me, it was one of those things where, I do some triathlons on an annual basis, and I'm pretty active, right? I CrossFit, I do these other things. But there were at times where like I really wouldn't get the efficient ingredients in my body. And the more and more I look at the ingredients or what put into just a lot of foods in general, it's packed with sugars. And sugars, obviously, I'm actually going through something right now. My mother-in-law has terminal cancer, and she is like, I mean, she's a sugar fiend. And I was like, Mom, like, if we have any chance at this thing, we got to eliminate these sugars. It's got to be natural sugars. And so we just backed into it from a nutritional standpoint. Like, how are we looking for longevity with our nutrition and eliminating some sugars, but really, really getting hyper-focused nutrition in our body that's super quick. And so for me, I'll give you kind of a little bit of the backstory, but like I always would lift like crazy amount of weights. I would lift for like really like mass, through my 20s. I realized that there wasn't a lot of longevity to that. And I wanted to be more optimized in my day-to-day. I didn't want to go to a gym for like 2 hours and just work and pump weight. I wanted to be not only optimizing my nutrition, but my workouts as well. So at my biggest, and it was, muscle, but it was about 235 pounds. I am at my high school weight right now. So I'm about 185 pounds. So I dropped 50 pounds.
Wow,
and,
man.
I'll tell you the truth. I feel like I brought back my athlete. Like my mind and my body are like absolutely connected. And the one way I did that was, number one, my association to the food, and then my cardiovascular output being super efficient. So I actually only work out 3 days a week, hyper-focused workouts. in a CrossFit type of environment. But my main thing is my nutrition, like what am I putting into my body? And so what I started doing, and this is kind of how we're gearing the launch of the Nutritious brand, is really understanding the psychology of food and how our relation with food is, right? And so one thing I do from a longevity standpoint to know that I'm going to be more optimized is that I intermittent fast up until noon of every day. So I'll stop eating at 8 p.m. and then I'll pick up at noon the next day. So I eat within an 8-hour window. And what that allows me to do, number one, there's a cellular breakdown that happens there that allows me just to naturally feel a little bit better. It puts my mind in more of a primal state. But then it allows me to utilize a nutritious pouch, which we're launching obviously in September, but we have a small early adopter program that we're launching with, but it allows me to break my fast with hyper efficient food supply. And so what we did was we came out with 3 SKUs right off the bat. And this is how I came up with kind of the principles of this, but is how do you get the foods that naturally are going to optimize you when you need them the most? And so what people don't know, fats increase your cortisol levels naturally. So it's not like coffee where you get a hyper spike. So we have one that isn't going to launch until actually September, but one of our SKUs is heavy in fat. So healthy fats, almond butter, avocado, coconut milk, MCT oil. That's one of our pouches that we're going to launch with. And then there's another one that we wanted to focus. Hey, what are food supplies that increase your serotonin levels that really can dictate your mood? So serotonin is your natural mood chemical. It's where you kind of like hit your equilibrium. Well, foods naturally enhance those things. And so what are foods? So we picked banana, acai, oats, and flax. Those things are naturally mood stabilizers. And so we focused a pouch specifically on that. And then the third one, which I think is really cool, and I'm super nerdy, so you can cut me off at any time.
I love it, man. I love it. No.
Foods naturally increase your melatonin supply too. So if you have foods that are focused on that, you build up your melatonin supply throughout the day. And then when you get into a dark environment, that's when you actually start using your melatonin building blocks. What people don't realize is that indirect sunlight, you're actually building up your melatonin supply. So you're prepping your body for sleep during the day. And so that's why it's super important to get indirect sunlight. Well, another way to get build up your melatonin supply is through food. And so sweet potato, goji berries, tart cherries, chia, all enriched with, number one, high in nutrients, but then melatonin. And so when you can build up those building blocks, you are then triggering your body to when you're actually prepping for sleep, you're more efficient at sleep then. So these pouches are mainly geared to not only be fuel for your brain, but fuel for your body. And so we have one differentiator, right? There's other on-the-go daily nutrition manufacturers out there. The one differentiator that we have, well, there's a couple differentiators, but that we put mushrooms in ours. I'm a big believer in mushrooms. And so what we do is we have the lion's mane and the reishi mushroom that we put in there for cognitive enhancement. So not only is it decreasing inflammation in the brain, but throughout the body. And that's what really creates that fuel. And then above and beyond that, all going back to like even my mother-in-law scenario is like getting sugars out, just making sure that there's no artificial anything. And we're only focusing on natural sugars from the dates from a monk fruit that we're actually putting in there to make it taste good, and then to be efficient and optimize your body. So I'm super passionate about it, but it is a great way for, it's a longevity focused. How are we optimizing each day as entrepreneurs and being very strategic about the food that we put in our body, very timely.
No, that's great, man. And you hit on kind of all of the most important things that high achievers need, which is that cortisol spike just for mood, the serotonin. But then I feel like a lot of people underestimate the importance of sleep and the quality of sleep that they get. so that their body can rejuvenate and they can be ready for the day. Because I know a lot of us, we like to, it's almost a badge of honor to be like, oh, I'm working harder, I'm grinding harder, I'm sleeping less and such, when in fact we know that sleep is so critical for our brain functionality and things like that. The other thing that you were talking about in terms of your mother-in-law and just the detriment of sugar in our bodies is such a big thing. So that was great that you shared about like, that was kind of the genesis or one of the things that kind of propelled it. So how did you then decide this is what I'm going to do? Because I know, and we're going to delve into it a little later, but you weren't always in the direct-to-consumer product game.
Yeah.
And so what made that shift happen where you wanted to go this route?
Yeah, one of the big things was so I had the story and the narrative behind it all. I've been in real estate since 2015 and invested into real estate. So I've never been in the transactional side, but we invest in real estate. And that never goes away. My love for real estate kind of is always there, but building a business has always been in my repertoire. I've been a thinker just by nature. And I've had a number of ideas. Not all of them have been good by any means. Look, one of them, just to tell you a little bit about how my mind works a little bit. I had this one idea. I swear to you. Sometimes you're on the interstate and you need to roll over and you got to go to the bathroom, right? There's
I totally know that feeling. Yep.
and so I was like, those kids tunnels that are kind of spring loaded. They even have at the beach for tents, but like there's like they can be tunnels too, and you can like they're wiry, and then they have like that real thin fabric, and their dogs can go through them or whatever. I'm like, what if you had this thing called the porta-poo, and you freaking just you had this thing that came out of the back of your trunk, and you just like unleashed it, right? And then it had maybe a little door on it, or you just put it over top of you, so you had privacy right off that. So you could go at any time you want. You're like, oh, I gotta go, I'm getting out, and you just had a little oasis there, and you just give it a little hand shovel. Anyways, I did like crazy stuff goes in my mind, but so anyways,
that's awesome, man. That's hilarious. Because yes, we've all been there. We've all been there, solving a problem. Yep.
But the real scenario is, I've been in real estate, and I've always been a very morning driven guy. I think there's joy in the morning. I'm faith driven, and so I just feel like when I get up and I set my parameters on praying and getting in the Word, and then going into book reading, and then going into journaling. I'm very structured with my approach, right? And well, there was a season about 4 years ago where my youngest girl, she was colicky, and I'm not gonna lie, it was one of the hardest years of my wife and I's marriage because we had lack of sleep. She wasn't sleeping, I wasn't sleeping. This baby was crying nonstop. It was horrible, and you literally can only, like, before you go crazy, I think it's like 3 days. Like, I always think this when I see some, the homeless, like the reason why they're like likely people stay crazy is because they can't get a full night's sleep. And so we hadn't gotten a full night's sleep in months. It was horrible. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna start running. And running wasn't really my thing. I always had this like click of I'll just run a mile, right? That's all I need to run. But my wife wasn't doing well without with not sleeping, and neither was I. And so I started getting up at 3 a.m, putting my baby in the stroller and just running. And before long, I was running like 5 miles every morning. I was running like 5 miles. And what I would do is when I was done with my route, I would come home, I'd park the baby, I would go inside, and then I would start reading, right? I think that year I read through like 60 books in a year. I just like was ferociously reading. And I came across the book, and it was about building a brand. It was just purely about building a brand.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this is interesting. I was like, I have all these ideas. I'd really like to like build a physical brand, right? And so I was like, what would that be? And I said it out loud about 3.5, 4 years ago. I'm like, what if there was a pouch? Because I was eating my daughter's pouches. Like at that point, I had a 4-year-old daughter, right? She's 7 now, but like she was 3 or 4. I'm like, what if there was a pouch geared towards like a high performer, you know? And I was like, I think that could be a thing. I was like, what if I put ingredients in a pouch that really made sense that allow me to optimize instead of eating my kids' pouches? And so I'm like, that'd be interesting. So I read this book, and I really didn't do anything of it, but I told my personal trainer at the time, I'm like, hey man, I got this idea, and I told a couple other people, it's a pretty good idea. And so then I met with my trainer again, and he's like, dude, I think that has some legs to it. Let's talk about it a little bit more. And we had a few other meetings that came out of that. And I'm like, let's do it. Let's make this a thing. Let's literally like build a brand from it. And so we idealized and sat down and kind of strategized and built out a business plan for it, which now is affectionately called Nutritious. So I actually blame it on my daughter. But I'm telling you, it really, it's a real thing. And that's ultimately the evolution of how this transpired while I was obviously doing real estate. But I really wanted to build a brand, and I wanted to focus it around the entrepreneur, the working athlete that just really needed that optimized nutrition to get them through the day. And so that's why we're here. And that's why we're focusing specifically on ingredients that we're super, super passionate about to help people and help entrepreneurs like yourself.
That's incredible, man. What a great story. And yeah, I am also a person of faith. And so I feel like sometimes the Lord implants these thoughts or scenarios or even situations where we think might be a trial or tribulation in our lives, but it is just to show us what that next step is. And so hearing that is just such an incredible testament to you listening and you paying attention. And I feel like a lot of times people are not listening or paying attention because they are so busy. And so you talking about those early mornings of having that quiet time where you can just sit and listen and journal, I feel like is so invaluable. And usually when those great ideas come. So that's an amazing Genesis story for the brand. Now, I know from the idea and conception part to actually making it a real life product is a journey in and of itself. How did you guys go about like finding the ingredients, making it taste acceptable or delicious for the consumer? And how did you guys test those kinds of things? Because if it's just you and your partner or whatever, you guys might have different tastes. Like, how did you guys go about that whole product development stage?
Oh man, that's a great question, because that is like, you make the decision, and then every day from there on out, you just say, all right, today's not the day to give up. You just keep going. There's a lot of things that transpired, but we hired right shortly thereafter, I hired a food scientist. And so then the formulation started beginning. So like we made an early investment, and some roadblocks kind of along the way there. We definitely learned a lot of things in that process, but what we did was we came out like kind of with a product, and then we sampled it on people like, hey, yeah, oh, this is a good idea, but would you use it? And I'm not going to lie. The early production rounds were not good. They were not delicious. And they were, I don't know if anyone ever actually truly bought them. So those were the early rounds that we kind of went back and forth, and we got some solicited feedback. And then we went on a journey, right? And so like I pretty much, I think I called up, I don't know, here from every co-manufacturer from Wisconsin to Florida, seeing if they could help us, and learned a ton about the processing and the manufacturing of food and how that works. And I call it God's grace again, because there was a manufacturer that we had found in Wisconsin, really, really great manufacturer that could help us out. They had food scientists that were going to be able to work with us. But their window that we could get in was a year away. Basically, we would have to put everything on hold for a year. I was like, man, that you kind of lose momentum, right? As an entrepreneur, when you have to like wait for a year. So I was like, all right, well, what's our next bet? So I actually reached, what, funny enough, I reached out to somebody in Arete. I made a post in Arete, met a young woman, Erica, and Erica's like, hey, you should get into this group called Slack CPG, which CPG, consumer product goods, right? So then I went into the Slack CPG channel, and I saw operations, and I just made a post in there. And then a guy commented on my feed, and he said, you might want to check out this woman. And so I messaged her. She didn't message me back, so I followed up with her again. And I think I had to follow up there 2 or 3 times. She got back to me. She saw like me in the feed. And then we were able to get on a phone call. That is our co-manufacturer today. And they're based out of the North Carolina state, but I did not realize how much value they would bring to us, and that how that all transpired creates such a unique selling proposition for us. But I can get into the weeds of that if you want me to, but they provide such a unique selling proposition to us that was the reason why the other things didn't work out to eventually lead to them. And it was an amazing experience. And they're a true partner of ours. So now we are with them, and it has been a journey. I mean, it's been an 8-month journey with them of working with their food scientists, going back and forth on the taste profiling and getting the ingredients right where we needed them to be. But that is ultimately how all that transpired. And now we got it we just have a great, really what we call a partner in play with us that we're growing with. And that's pretty much how that transpired. But it's been such an obstacle, so that we really made the decision about 2 years ago in August. So coming up on 2 years, that we were gonna start processing through this and really push forward with it. And so now we are literally in production as of last week. So like in May, so about a year and a half later, that's what the journey took to get to this point.
That is so awesome. And I know, and most people that have started any business know just the incredible trials and tribulations that an entrepreneur goes through. And so you just sharing kind of just the tip of the iceberg in terms of some of those things, because I'm sure there were plenty of times when you're like, why am I doing this? Is this the right decision? And but yeah, people, then you start meeting these people in your life, and it's an amazing journey. And when you look back, you see kind of that divine intervention almost throughout. But when you're in it, it is tough to continue on. So one of your strengths is just your persistence. And so I guess, how did you get into like being an entrepreneur to begin with? Because I know out of college, you were working for a Fortune 50 company as a project manager. How did you make that jump from having a very good job to wanting to start your own businesses?
Yeah, I would say, the biggest jump. So I was in Washington, D.C., and loved Accenture. Accenture's a great company, and learned a lot there, and understanding, like I did a earned value management, which is a very complex financial management system that we worked on in the Department of State. And then I transitioned down and did some consulting work within Florida. So came down to Florida, and honestly, I hit like a roadblock. I transitioned into essentially a business to business sales environment that I don't know. It was the biggest learning experience of my entire life. Although I hated it at the time, it prepared me for everything that I needed. And so one of the things that it prepared me for was like literally not caring about anything. So I did, it was a short stint. It was like 9 months, but I did, and man, they had such a Neanderthal process. They had in Florida at 90-degree heat, they had you wear a suit and then you would go business door to door, try to sell like logistics, right? So you had, 3PLs, LTLs. They were like they were a hybrid of like UPS. And so they did these things, but I'm like, I got into the weeds, and I remember just like one day my pants split, freaking right down the butt crack, and I'm like, oh, mortified. I'm like, hey, I think I should leave, right? I mean, everything under the sun, like the bottom of my shoe ripped off one day of my colons. It was like, instead of like this lead generation, they expected you to go out and like pound pavement and hit doors, but you would do the craziest stuff too, like the craziest stuff. So it taught me so much, yet I hated it because I was not passionate about logistics at all. By no means was I passionate about logistics. So I was like, I better figure something out, right? But I invested like everything. When I go in and I want to be successful at it. But it is, for me, like I definitely want to be passionate about what I'm doing, right? And so during that time frame, my wife and I moved down to Tampa, Florida, and we bought a house with like an in-law suite. They call it an in-law suite. It's an accessory dwelling unit. And not knowing, but that's actually what was the impetus of me getting into real estate. So we put that on Airbnb. We were actually the first of, I think, 50 people to actually have an Airbnb in Tampa, which now there's
no way.
10,000.
Yeah.
So, I was one of the original people to get in 2015 to launch with Airbnb. I was one of 50 super hosts in Tampa too. So like I was in the top. I had about 12 listings that I scaled it up to, but it was because that job was so difficult, right? That I had to figure something out. And so I felt like that was like kind of my bottom, the floor. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna quit this job, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna just figure it out. Everything's figure outable. And so I quit it, and then started up a short-term rental company. And that's ultimately how I got in real estate and figured out how to navigate my way through my first 3 Airbnbs, which I basically just house hacked. So I would buy a house, and then I would either build a tiny house into the rear, or I would convert a garage into another apartment. And so then I'd rent out 2 of them, right? So I'd rent out the front and the back. And then realized very quickly that it was going to be hard to scale that. So I transitioned into a wholesaling environment, learned kind of the trades of wholesaling, of real estate marketing, but then was provided with an opportunity to understand and learn the multifamily syndication environment. And I've had a few mentors kind of along the way in that process, where I've been involved in about 600 multifamily doors with minimal equity on some side, and then a good amount, substantial equity on some other deals. So we were able to go into and reposition some of those, and then met one of my really, really good buddies. And we got into a couple land entitlement projects. And so it's just like my real estate journey involved in me getting more and more education on what I actually could participate in. So literally I participated in everything from an Airbnb, building of a tiny home, all the way to the entitlement of a 260 unit apartment complex right now that we're working on entitling and then transitioning that off. But it's the whole gamut. I've kind of learned real estate, but that has just been something that I've like truly enjoyed. We're actually repositioning a 19,000 square foot strip mall with triple net leases. So these are, I've literally had to, I've got the whole gamut in real estate, which I love that piece. And so that'll, real estate can, it doesn't have to go away. There's always real estate opportunities. So then it runs very, parallel to building the Nutritious brand, which has been my main focus over the past year and a half.
Oh, my man, that is so incredible. Now, I have so many questions about that. So we might have to do another episode just on the real estate side of it. But I know we're here more to talk about the Nutritious brand that we're super excited. And I can't wait to be a part of it as well and try it out when it comes out in September. But how you didn't know, so you didn't know really anything about real estate, but you were just like, I'm going to do this next thing. I'm going to do this next thing. Like you said, there was an ADU attached to the first house you bought. And then you're just like, well, this could be a thing. How did you keep going as opposed to just like being like, yeah, I figured out this little hack. I could be a super host and own a couple doors and make okay amount of money. Like, what made you transition to doing the Cadence Capital Ventures and doing the things that you're doing now, I guess?
Yeah, my mind always shifts to scalability. So like what is, at what point, like the impetus of like just scale, right? And so I learned that after 2 years, I realized that when cleaners wouldn't show up, who was cleaning on? Who was cleaning the toilets? Who was cleaning the showers? It was the owners. So the owner, like I had to clean it before somebody came in, because otherwise, like I had to cancel the reservation, right? And you don't want the reservation to be canceled. So I remember being over there. I mean, I would be over there on a Sunday sometimes, and I would be like, I gotta go. Had to take away myself from that family because the cleaners, I found out, hey, we got to cancel on you. And cleaning is like the biggest thing in a hotel environment, right?
Yep.
Where you need somebody there to clean, right? So I knew it was going to be very difficult and very, that's a tough environment to be in for like cleaning. I can tell you hands down, everyone that's in the Airbnb world or the Vrbo world, that is their biggest problem, right? Is cleaning and getting really true cleaners to get in there effectively and efficiently. So it's very, very difficult. And then probably the second problem is like people throwing parties, because usually when people come in, they're like on vacation, right? And so everything's based on the review. And so at that point, Airbnb was like all about the rentor instead of like the owner. And so, I just had, everything was based off the review. That's how the algorithm works. So you had to get 5 stars. I couldn't leave the place. The place had to be a spick and span, and like the cleaners were relatively inefficient. I'm like, all right, my mind goes back to scalability. How? I got to learn something new, right? And so I really started investing a significant amount of money. All the money that I made, like basically in Airbnb, I then reinvested it in my education for wholesaling. So I think that like that year, I just spent like I think it was like $30,000 on education for a mastermind in getting into like the understanding the wholesale environment. And then I think shortly thereafter, I then invested more money into getting into like multifamily syndications and really understanding that. And so that's what kind of created education, is then what propelled the aggressive growth. And when you're learning something, again, going back to nutritious, I understand it now, but like the amount of neuroplasticity that was going on in my brain at that time, of like the awakening of like, I just loved learning and I wanted to grab on any and all information as I could. And that was directed towards real estate and growing. That is, the amount of retention that I had it's still amazing to me. And so that is actually my trajectory even today of like, how much more can we grow and really consolidate that time of like, do I have to say that I don't learn as fast? Actually, no, I can learn faster in shorter periods of time. I just need to be optimized and be very efficient with that. And so I'm really, really, you learn at a much faster pace of stuff that you're actually truly passionate about. And so that's why I've been able to learn so much about human optimization and, how nutrition builds into that and how exercise builds into that and how we can really optimize our body. But how also I learned in that same time span about real estate, because I'm still passionate about that. So if we can find something that we're really, really passionate about, we can learn at a very aggressive rate. And it's really cool.
No, that's so insightful, and I feel like so valuable to the listeners, because I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs either get complacent or they get stuck or they go into a rut and they're just not sure why, or they're not even self-aware enough to realize that they're just kind of stuck or plateaued. So hearing that story or your story, I feel like is very insightful for people that might be in that situation. And again, going back to why being very intentional about the nutrition that you put into your body, how that impacts not only your health, but also your ability to learn and grow. So it's not just physical, but it is mental as well. And it's just so important. And that's why I was so excited to have you on. And again, for everyone listening, please go check out the website. We're so excited. It is NootUp. So NOOTUP.com. And that'll be in the show notes as well. So please check out the site. And for our listeners as well, if you put in the code FAMILY, you will get a discount on your order too. So please check this out. You can see that Matt is he is living what he is preaching. A lot of times we'll have people on, or I meet entrepreneurs that are just starting something new, but they don't live it or they're not passionate about it. But you can hear from Matt how passionate he is about just always improving on the product or everything that he does and making sure that he's providing the best product, whether it is Airbnb or real estate syndication. And now with this nutritious brand, it's going to be top notch and very well thought out. And with the partnerships as well, you're only going to get the best, highest ingredients. And so that's another thing that you were talking about, Matt, is that you focused on the things that you can focus on, and the things that you didn't know about, you invested in that education, whether it was with food scientists for the nutritious brand or masterminds so that you can get more educated. I feel like a lot of people underestimate the value of education. They think, oh, I'm an adult now, I don't need to invest. Yeah. And of course, we know each other through that great mastermind group that we're a part of, Arate, and just how much value being around like-minded individuals, and also just the networking ability. And that's how I'm able to bring an amazing guest like Matt on the show, is because of these opportunities. So I hope that the people listening are really paying attention. Now, with the nutritious brand, you said it is rolling out in September to the public, but there are still some options for maybe some early adopters. Is that right?
Yeah. So what we're doing is we're going to be doing a soft launch for a period all the way up basically to September. And our soft launch is allowing us to fulfill products. So we actually went into production last week. But the main thing there is we want people to be able to early adopt before we actually take it to release it to the public. And it's a little bit strategic to do that. We want your feedback. So we want some good feedback, because we can be nimble in those times where we can change up some things. So it's really cool that we're able to kind of take this time and really integrate with people and get and solicit that feedback. So that's the main thing here, is that we're going to be doing that. We're also going to be rolling out some challenges within our Facebook group that I can share if people want to participate. We add value there. And that's all about human optimization. So it's all about how we can be more efficient, right? We're going through a 14-day mobility challenge of how we stretch our body every day. And so that's just one important thing for me that I've done over the past 5 years is I stretch every morning. So I wanted to take you through a 14-day challenge. And the one thing that we, obviously see growing is, intermittent fasting, which I was telling we were talking about before the call. But, I want people to really entertain that, think about that a little bit more, because intermittent fasting can just be a great tool. But get this, this is kind of like how I'm shaping this a little bit. I don't know if people know this, but like we have a food shortage, like a global food shortage. And what I think, about intermittent fasting is everyone hopped on board and only chose to, maybe skip one meal a day. And we ate in an 8-hour window and we just haven't eaten a lot. And we broke our fast with a nutritious food pouch. That we could probably save millions and billions of pounds of food every year, right? That would allow us to feed the next generation. And so I just thought of that the other day, and I'm like, dude, I hope people can grab onto this, that we can save billions amount of food if we really think this way. And I want Nutritious to be on the forefront of that. And so, anyways, we're going to have a 30-day intermittent fasting challenge where people do that and they'll break the fast with a nutritious pouch. So anyways, we'll be rolling out that probably next month. So we'd love for everyone that's going to be listening in here to hop into that challenge. We'd love for you to participate.
Please, if you can share that, or if you can send me the Facebook group so that we can advertise that as well, or share that, because I think what you guys are doing is incredible. And I do intermittent fasting as well. I feel like it is just so helpful for just mental clarity throughout the day, as well as it's an easier way, at least for me, as opposed to counting all of my calories and what I'm intaking. I'm like, okay, this is an easier way for somebody like myself who is busy with 4 kids and work and business to just kind of maintain a level. And now I realize when I don't intermittent fast or I eat in the middle of the day, how much it impacts like my mood and my energy level, like right after that meal. And granted, what I intake also impacts that. But and so what you guys are doing is so critical, and I feel so valuable. And then that last point about the food shortage, like we're in the United States where we're lucky to have an overabundance of food. But if you do think of it as a global world problem, that definitely is a problem. And just doing these small things, not only is it better for everyone's health and mental capacity, but also you really are making an impact. And so please, guys and girls, if you're listening, join the Facebook group, check out the website, and really give the nutritious pouches a chance, because I feel like it's going to be a game changer for us who are busy or who are still trying to keep their athletic careers a little bit longer.
That's right.
Even though our primes have probably passed us quite a bit ago.
It's okay.
Just taking in these healthy things that are going to help optimize your body and your mind is just going to be of benefit. And so please check it out. You can go to their website. Again, it's www.nootup.com. And Matt, where else can they find you to connect with you? On Instagram, on Facebook? Where would be the best spots where they can meet up with or connect with you?
Yeah, we have our 2 channels. Beginning, it's, the brand is synergistically aligning with me and my personal brand because I talk a lot about it. But I'm at @official Matt Attack on all channels. So that's just Matt Attack on all channels. So you can get me on Instagram and on YouTube. And then @nutritious.co is our handles for the Nutritious brand. And we're posting stuff there, and we're building up, obviously, the brand. We're an early brand there. So a lot of the stuff is being derived through my channel, and then we'll eventually the nutritious brand will stand alone by itself. But I'm taking the forefront on it because I'm super passionate about it, and I think it's going to be a game changer for a lot of entrepreneurs.
No, I'm so excited to see the journey, hear the story, and just I can't wait for us to have you back on a year from now and just see all of the amazing things that you guys are doing with the Nutritious brand. We'll have those handles in the show notes as well. So please reach out to Matt if you have any questions, or if they did want to participate with the understanding of like providing feedback and things of that nature. How can they become a part of that early adopter phase?
They will automatically be in because we will have not gone into full scale launch. So as soon as at our nutup.com, they will, as soon as they make their order there, they'll automatically, and then they'll be part of our newsletter program, and we'll let them know, hey, they'll just have their contact information, and then they'll know that we'll be reaching out to them just to, get their feedback and really be part of that. So they'll automatically be put in. We'll have their information on file. If they have their email, if an email or phone number is best contact, one or the other will be reaching out. It'll just be a Google form, but if you're open to give us even more feedback, what we would like is to, set up a face-to-face and really give us some user-generated content and give us feedback. But we'll make it as simple as possible for everyone to just give us feedback, because we'll have about 4 or 5 main questions. But if you want to go above and beyond that, really, really be part of this brand, we'd love to hop on a phone call with you, me, myself, and some of my team members, and just give us any and all of it.
Yeah, no, I'm so excited, and I'm going to be checking it out. I encourage everyone else that's listening and watching to check it out and really support. As you can see, Matt has a great passion for human optimization, for nutrition, based upon, situations that have happened with his family and such. And he is very dedicated to always providing the best that he can in every endeavor that he partakes in. And so I have no doubt that Nutritious brand is going to be a game changer for us entrepreneurs and weekend warriors, or even those professional athletes that need that extra advantage, or, if you like to go to the gym or CrossFit, please check this brand out. Share this episode with anyone that that might be interested in finding out more about the Nutritious brand, or just human optimization in general, because gut health, what you put into your body, makes such an impact. And as you can tell, Matt can geek out on this stuff a lot more, but because of our time restraints and such, we're going to have to have him back on to delve a little deeper into that, because that's something that I'm very passionate about. And the more that you guys can share these shows, leave us comments and reviews, that way we know that you found value in this episode, and we can bring in other amazing guests like Matt to provide you guys with value. So please, if you found value, share the show with somebody else. Check out the website, nootup.com, nootup.com. If you put it in order, provide just honest feedback. As you can tell, Matt's only goal is to make the product the best that it can be, so that it has the greatest impact for everyone out there. So join, sign up, provide feedback, and share what they're trying to do. Join their community and be as active in there as you can. And please leave us a review, share this episode. I feel like Matt shared so much great insight on entrepreneurship and business and all of that, as well as just so many valuable things in regards to nutrition. So Matt, I can't thank you enough for being on this week. And I'm looking forward to us partnering up some more in the future. But Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for listening, paying attention, and following. For Matt, this is Young. Thanks again from the Chicago Business Review.